Welcome to a new episode of It's a Payback by Tail Square, where we dive into bold stories of people getting even in their own clever ways. Coming up, annoying calls for a decade lead to an epic manager takedown. Phone calls for the previous owner, who turned out to be my terrible manager. Names have been changed to keep anonymity. Mobile phones became common in my country around 2004, just as I finished high school. My parents bought me my first phone, a second-hand Nokia. It was bulky and basic, but I promised myself that someday I'd buy a new phone with my own money. When college started, I had a 2-hour daily commute. In high school, I had excelled academically and won several district-level awards. These awards were being distributed during my first year of college. One nationalized bank award finally gave me enough money for a new phone. I bought a Sony Ericsson K300i and a premium SIM card, not realizing it had been abandoned by its previous owner. By the third day, I started receiving calls for a guy named Bitsa from various financial institutions. It turned out the number previously belonged to him, and for 20 years, I've been getting these calls. Determined to keep my premium number, I began a routine of blocking wrong numbers. Back then, blocking was device-specific, so each time I got a new phone, I had to start over, keeping a list of numbers to block. I got my first job after graduating in 2009. Around 2010, I was assigned to a new project with a notorious reputation for burning people out due to a nefarious project manager named Bits. I didn't know his full name for quite a while. He took pride in making our lives a living hell. Bits ruled with an iron fist. From the moment his team stepped into the office, they were met with a barrage of emails and messages, each more urgent than the last. Bits thrived on creating chaos, often changing project deadlines on a whim, demanding his team work late into the night and through weekends. Bits' presence loomed over every task. He insisted on micromanaging every detail, yet was quick to take credit for any successes no matter how small. Failures, however, were met with his notorious tirades, publicly berating his team and assigning blame without hesitation. His unpredictable temper kept everyone on edge, afraid to make the slightest mistake. Meetings were another tool in his arsenal of torment. He scheduled them during lunch breaks and after hours, ensuring no one could escape his grasp. These meetings were often pointless, serving only to reinforce his dominance and disrupt any semblance of work-life balance his team might have had. His relentless stream of emails continued around the clock, each carrying a thinly veiled threat, perfection or dismissal. Under his reign, morale plummeted and burnout soared. Yet Bits remained oblivious, satisfied only by his complete and total control. I was quite ashamed when I learned that he was from the same area as I was and had gone to the same school, though years before me. In 2012, our company merged with a parent company. Almost nothing changed personnel-wise, but infrastructure-wise we got MS Outlook and an organization view. That was when I first learned about Bits from an organizational hierarchy perspective. His full name was an eye-opener. It was Bitsa. Now, the name was common enough, but at the time, mobile numbers had an area-specific pattern, so I already knew that the previous owner of my number was from the same area as me. Still, it could be someone else. I wanted to dig deeper. I talked with an old mentor who lived in the same area and had coached several high school students for the last 2 decades. He confirmed my suspicions. I won't go into the details, but it was evident that Bitsa and Bits were the same person. I had been quite pissed with this unknown person named Bitsa for almost a decade by then, and Bits had been the bane of my, and several others, existence for quite some time. This is where the revenge lies. First, I had unblocked all the numbers in my phone. I was getting 5 to 6 calls daily on average, but after unblocking about 150 numbers, it increased to 15 to 18. My answering strategy changed drastically. Instead of saying wrong number, I politely explained that the owner had changed his number and provided his current number to update their database. This is where I could be the fool. I also volunteered his manager's number in case he tries something else. The fallout was epic. These people had been trying to find him for almost a decade. Banks had sold his debts to companies that harassed people for a living to get their money back. It turned out he had been taking loans in everyone's names, his wife, parents, uncles, aunts, and giving everyone that same number. He was evading credit card debt and loans of upwards of $200,000, equivalent in USD, but it's a ton of money where we are from. Apparently, he had almost 20 cases filed against him, but no one could find him. Probably why he thought he could walk on water. There are multiple versions of what happened at the office when his manager started to get calls about him. He was let go about 2 months later, but I haven't heard from him since. 401k with a side of revenge. When our first child was born, my ex forced me to quit my job. When our second child was 2, I found out about his affair. By then, he was extremely verbally, emotionally, and sometimes physically violent. When he abused our firstborn, I put him out. That was in 2012. I couldn't afford daycare to work and had no family support. He refused to give me any money to take care of the kids, saying, "The courts haven't ordered me to give you a dime." He lied to the bank and had my accounts frozen and even assaulted me when I filed for default in the divorce. The judge finally ordered him to pay child and spousal support 6 months after I kicked him out. It was $2,562 a month. He refused to pay it until the garnishment kicked in, and by then he was $6,000 behind in support. I used that to get permission to move away. I remarried a year after the divorce. I checked the court documents, and there was a little box that said spousal support stopped upon remarriage if that box was checked. It wasn't checked, so I figured I was good. Instead of filing for his retirement, I just took that year of spousal support, $12,000, and left it alone. Spousal support was only ordered for 2 years. In 2017, he filed for sole custody of the kids out of nowhere. That was when he found out I had remarried, and he had paid spousal support to me during the first year of my marriage. I told him I took that money instead of filing for my share of his retirement. I said if he let me keep that $12,000, I wouldn't file to split his $401k. He demanded that I repay the spousal support. The judge ordered me to repay it, but increased child support and deducted the repayment from that. It ended up that I got an extra $20 a month, and he repaid himself. He dropped his bid for custody in exchange for 2 extra weeks in summer. I pursued the retirement account split. He refused to cooperate and dragged it out for 4 years. It was so bad, they sanctioned him, and he had to pay me $600 a month for a year in addition to child support. They also charged him with contempt. In January 2021, he proposed to his girlfriend. In May of 2021, I finally got the disbursement from his $401k. I won't say how much it was, but it was about 4 times the amount of spousal support overpayment. I had no idea it would be that much. I had thought it would be around $12,000, which is why I thought keeping that year of spousal and not filing for his retirement account was a fair trade. Had he not tried to take the kids from me, I never would file to split the account, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. His fiancée emailed me recently and told me it is my fault he won't marry her because I cleaned out his retirement account. She said I shouldn't have stolen his money. I told her that I gave him the option to let me keep that year of spousal support or take it back, and I could file for his retirement. He chose to have me file for his retirement. I told her that if he really wanted to marry her and protect his assets, they could get a prenup so he wouldn't have to worry about it. She said she shouldn't have to sign a prenup because I robbed him. I never asked to be financially dependent on him. He clearly indicated he wanted a court order to take care of his kids, so I got him one. I tried to be fair and take the lesser amount by taking the spousal support and not filing for his retirement. He wouldn't let me. In summary, my ex refused to pay me until support orders dropped, refused to pay until they revoked his license, tried to get me in trouble for accepting spousal support overpayment, and in the end, it cost him a lot of money out of his $401k. Landlord put me through 3 years of hell. My landlord was a terrible human being. Honestly, calling him a human is even pushing it. Just a few things he has done to me over the past 3 years. He stole my dryer and other household products that were in a common area. He made me pay for a plumbing repair, which was deemed normal wear and tear. He tried breaking into my house and retaliated against me because I went to my lawyer after he sent me a letter about a parking spot. He also tried charging me an extra $150 per month. Mind you, I was never late for rent in 3 years, except for when he made me pay for the plumbing repair, so the next month I was a couple of days late. The list goes on. Now, this apartment was nowhere near nice. I found out the plumbing was illegal. He left me with a porch for years that had severe safety issues. The ceiling paint was always falling down, and the gas heater was not up to code, and so on. I finally got my chance to leave after he wanted to raise my rent by $500 per month. He would do anything and everything to get more money out of his tenants. So I called the building inspector 4 days before I left. I told him everything. The porch, when he finally replaced it, didn't have a permit and was definitely not up to code. I told him about the plumbing and the heater. I went on and on. The inspector came over the very next day. I saw him taking measurements. Each violation is a $500 per day fine until fixed. I honestly don't know what happened after that, but my God, did it feel good to finally get him back. He's at the very least on the town's radar now. A week before I moved out, he tried telling me I needed to be out at a specific time. I never responded, and where I lived, that's not how it works. He tried to threaten me with the police if I wasn't gone by his time. Well, I went to the police myself that morning to warn them. The landlord did come by, threatened me, and harassed me. I called the police, and they informed him I was in the right. Long story short, he broke into my apartment I had left to go to storage while I was gone. He nailed my door shut. I told the police to get the supervisor because I was done being harassed by this guy. Go figure. He left before the supervisor could get there. I'm positive he knew he'd be arrested on site, got the police report, and they're charging him with a felony for breaking and entering. Fines plus a charge. Don't be a moron to good people. Cable company kept calling to recharge even after disconnecting service, booked tech support to fix non-existent TV box. My old TV finally broke down, so I got a new smart TV. A couple of weeks later, I realized that no one in the family watches any TV channels anymore. Everyone goes for streaming content. I decided it wasn't worth paying for the TV connection anymore. Now, my TV connection was bundled into my phone plan along with my internet, so disconnecting it wasn't straightforward. It was a custom plan with its own dedicated relationship team. It took several calls to the team to find a resolution, which ended up being converting the TV connection to a prepaid plan and then simply stopping the recharges. After the conversion was done, I got messages for a few weeks reminding me to recharge, and finally, a message to return the set-top box. I responded, and in a few days, the box was collected from my place. Good riddance, or so I thought. Next came calls from random call centers asking me to recharge. It felt different from the dedicated relationship team. A quick search revealed that the company had outsourced this part of their support to a third party. They simply used a printed database of customers who hadn't recharged, but since my disconnection happened mid-month and their list was outdated, they didn't have the updated info. I tried to explain the situation to the callers, but no one listened. So I started telling them that my TV was having trouble connecting to the set-top box and that multiple support requests had been ignored. I also started recording the calls. The third caller took it seriously and booked tech support. Within hours, I got a call from a field tech. When the tech arrived, I greeted him with a drink and explained the real situation. We had a good laugh, and he suggested that I keep the act going a few more times. After 8 tech support visits, they finally got the message. A supervisor called me, asking why I kept booking tech support when it was clear I didn't have a connection anymore. I sent him the recordings of the calls. He was pretty annoyed, but the calls finally stopped, at least for the most part. Now, if I get a call, rarely, about once every couple of weeks, I read from the same script. If they take it seriously and try to book tech support, they get a note against my account to not bother this gentleman.